I've spoken to business owners who contract with the government, and they are dipping into their 401ks to be able to pay their business expenses because their number one contractor is the federal government, and they're not getting paid. We have air traffic controllers who are not showing up for work because they're not getting paid. We have airline delays. All of these things were created for one single issue in my mind. And I'll get it from your mind. And in my mind, that issue is they didn't do their jobs with the budget.
The importance of having testosterone is also really high for women. And it's not just about feeling strong or your hair falling out. Testosterone is a really protective hormone for your brain, for your cardiovascular system, for your skin.
It shows that when you practice the art of being thankful, it reduces depression, lowers your blood pressure, releases all those fun serotonins and dopamines. Write down 3 good things every day. It's amazing how much that changes our outlook on everything. Hey there and welcome. This is my friend Mandy.
This is my friend Deb.
And together we are Mandy and Deb.
I think that was our best one yet.
I think we're getting really good. Yeah, it's just going to get better from here. Thanks so much for tuning in. We are glad you're joining us today. And by the way, before we start the show, make sure to click the subscribe button right down there and subscribe to all of the II shows, IITV. They're all great shows.
Fantastic. You'll learn a lot. You'll be a lot smarter. Actually, I think you're going to be like 16 to 17% smarter.
I think studies have been done on that. Yes.
Yeah.
If you watch today, you'll be 18% smarter. And also be sure to follow us on Facebook. That is Mandy & Deb, because we're fancy, Mandy and Deb. Well, good to be here with you today, and let's kick it off.
Yes, let's kick it off by talking about what everybody's talking about right now.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. We missed something. We've got issues.
Oh, wait, sorry, she forgot to click clicker. She's clicked now. So let's talk about the government shutdown, which has obviously been the biggest news. And, you know, watching this unfold, watching this transpire has been, on the one hand, I'm always thinking when government isn't working, they're not doing something to me. So that's just how I feel personally. But obviously this has a huge impact on our economy here in Colorado. I've spoken to business owners who contract with the government, and they are dipping into their 401ks to be able to pay their business expenses because their number one contractor is the federal government, and they're not getting paid. We have air traffic controllers who are not showing up for work because they're not getting paid. We have airline delays. All of these things were created for one single issue in my mind. And I'll get it from your mind. And in my mind, that issue is they didn't do their jobs with the budget. And we have had a continuing resolution now for 30 years.
Oh, absolutely. No, you nailed it, because the reality is, especially the House of Representatives, it's supposed to hold the purse strings, really has one major responsibility, which is to make a budget, which they haven't actually done for well over 2 decades now. And my whole feeling is, you know, by the way, these people work for us. And at some point in time, we need to say, this can't happen again. Shutdowns don't work. I really love that one of the senators from Louisiana said, you know, I'm going to pass a law. It's called, and it had a very catchy name, like Politicians Don't Get Paid During the Shutdown Act, or whatever you want to call it. And I think that's right, because they just don't do their job. And then they make it a political football. And who loses? The American people.
Let's talk about the fact that we're using continuing resolutions instead of what's called regular order. And this is a little bit boring, but what I found in talking about this is most people really have no clue on how the government is supposed to work, because it's been so long. It's been since 1998 since we passed budgets in regular order. There are supposed to be 12 separate budget bills. That's the way Congress is supposed to work. But instead of doing that, because that requires something that's called horse trading. You give me something in the agriculture budget to get you something that you want in the transportation budget. And I don't care who you are, that's how politics has always been done. And it's pretty effective because not everybody's happy with everything, but not everybody's mad. With a continuing resolution, they cram all the spending into one bill, and then they can hold the entire government hostage for whatever issue they decide is important. In this case, it was Democrats fighting to keep the extended ACA subsidies. In the past, it's been Republicans fighting for an issue. There are no angels in DC on this issue. Everybody is guilty. And Deb, I think we need to make it, can we do a citizens initiative for the don't pay the members of Congress if government isn't open? Because I'll sign that petition all day long.
Yeah, I agree. I think the bigger thing is what you said, which is making sure that we don't just keep having these continuing resolutions, because it creates these omnibus spending bills that people stuff in. You know, they get what they want anyway, and the pork is equal, both sides of the aisle, and then there's no accountability. And I would like that don't pay the politicians if they don't work, but the problem is they don't feel the pain. And the reason why they don't feel the pain is the other thing that's been exposed, particularly because Nancy Pelosi is retiring, and I'm not just picking on Nancy Pelosi. It is amazing how many people go to Washington, D.C., get paid $175,000 to $225,000 approximately, and end up being multi-millionaires. For instance, Nancy Pelosi is just the most probably extreme example, 17,000% increase on her stocks. She's worth $280 million. And to me, this is the big disconnect also. Their staffers don't even get paid.
Yeah.
And when in America, I found the statistic that 68% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So when we're talking about the air traffic controllers who have mortgages, probably have, daycare or childcare costs, they have healthcare costs. I'm very impressed by anyone who stayed in the job, but they missed two paychecks. And who is that not affecting or hurting? The politicians in Washington, D.C., who for the most part are so disconnected from the pain that they cause. I think that there's a real opportunity for people to look at this. And by the way, when it comes to the economy, I just heard this number, so I'm not gonna nail it down exactly. We are just about to find out how many millions and millions, possibly billions of dollars this has cost our economy to have this shutdown for no other reason than for political power plays.
Well, I do think the good news is that Thanksgiving travel means that this is going to be done. Because as soon as the air traffic controllers were like, we're not working, and everybody went, oh, we've got to shut down airspace, then things got real and things got really serious. But ultimately, the American people lost because this was just a whole bunch of wasted nonsense.
Yes.
And now that we're beyond it, we have to start looking at the reasons that this got started in the first place. And let's talk about healthcare for just a moment.
Let's do, absolutely, because that's one of the areas that the inflation has gone up far more than the regular expenses. But you take it away.
Well, there's an interesting chart out there right now. I should have grabbed it before I came in here.
I can draw it really fast.
Well, it shows industries where the government intervenes, right?
Yes.
Any industry where the government says, we got you, boo. We're going to help you out.
always a bad sign,
I'm just saying, if the government says, we're going to make this cheaper, I can assure you they are not going to make it cheaper. And the reality is that since Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, the ironically named Affordable Care Act has taken over, the inflation in the medical field has gone well beyond where it was projected. The chart that they used to scare us into supporting Obamacare is now the chart that they're using to show us what it should have been.
This is that chart.
Yes. See, this is where, it was supposed to be there. But the Affordable Care Act, and just a little background, I used to sell health insurance. I sold health insurance and Medicare supplements.
One of the many hats of Mandy Connell.
Let me tell you, but boy, has that one been useful for this job, right?
Absolutely.
So when I read the Affordable Care Act, and I read 3 versions of the Affordable Care Act, all 2,000 plus pages, the first thing I looked at was there's nothing in this bill to actually bring healthcare costs down.
Yeah.
So it was never designed to do that. It is happening the way it was designed to happen. And instead of saying Obamacare is unsustainable unless the government gives subsidies, we need to be saying, why is healthcare getting more expensive under this plan, and figure out how to change those things that have made things more expensive. And I think reducing overall mandates in insurance, because here I am, I'm a 56-year-old woman. Does anybody really think I'm going to use maternity insurance anymore? I mean, really?
I'm done.
I'm just saying.
I'm also done with that, by the way.
We've got to figure out ways to inject more free markets into the system, because what we're doing now, it is not going to get any better. and it is enriching a lot of middlemen in the medical economy.
Yes.
And it is bankrupting people who are just trying to get some kind of health insurance for their family.
I absolutely agree. And my concern is, like you said, that the conversation isn't happening where it's really supposed to be happening. This was supposed to, the ACA, Obamacare, bring prices down. You could keep your health care if you liked it. That didn't happen. And not only did it drive up the cost for the federal coverage of healthcare, which you and I pay for, by the way. I always want to remind everybody, when it says that the government's spending more money, they're spending more of your and my money. They don't make money. They just end up taking the money that they get from the taxpayers. It went up there. It also went up for employee plans. People who had an employer plan, many of them doubled. And then individual plans went way up also. And free market competition is always the best. Because by the way, the more government takes over, and I always say, what's the proper role of government? Not to run healthcare, not to be your insurance company, because it doesn't do it very well, because it doesn't have competition. So I think that's a really great point. We need to be asking, why does Obamacare need continuing subsidies when it's supposed to drive down the cost? It's going to be a real pain that people are going to feel. Supposedly, if it runs out, the subsidies, December 31st, the prices are going to double. That's real pain for the American people, but we need to do the serious work of making the real changes so we aren't here the next time there's another continuing resolution.
No, this is gonna be an issue that has to be resolved. And let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Imagine if your insurance plan worked like this. It didn't say, okay, you need a hip replacement and you're gonna have to go to this hospital and this doctor. You have to follow our script and this is what's going to happen because we've negotiated these prices with these hospitals. What if your insurance company said to you, you have $11,000 to get your hip replaced. We're going to give you an $11,000 check when you get your hip replaced. Where you get your hip replaced is entirely up to you. You can go to a surgical center, you can go to a hospital, but you have $11,000 to get your hip replaced. Now, what are you going to do as a consumer? If you know you're going to get $11,000, I'm like, can I get one for $6,500? Like, what can I do?
Good Friday sale.
What that does is it does inject that spirit of competition into it. And I'm not talking about for emergencies. Like if you have a heart attack and you go to the emergency room, obviously that's going to be a different sort. That's your catastrophic care. But if you need a hip replacement, you need a knee replacement, you need, an eyebrow lift because you can't see anymore, you should be able to shop the market in a free market way. And that alone would depress the price of healthcare. And ultimately the price of health insurance goes right hand in hand with the price of healthcare. So you have to put those together, and we have to really have creative conversations that aren't based on the premise, you can do what we had before or you can do what we have now. That's a false choice.
Yeah, and it's about time that we start doing our research as citizens. And when we get a promise that sounds too good to be true, like Obamacare sounded too good to be true, then we need to look at it now and not just go to the knee-jerk, because it's going to be a pressure point that politicians are going to use again. Before we switch to the next topic, here's what I really think is someday when Mandy and I both need hip replacements, let's get a twofer. 2-for-1 deal. I don't know if
I want to go to a doctor who's doing 2-for-1 deals on a hip replacement. Okay. Now, boob jobs, that's totally different.
Okay, you know what? Yeah. That's just not my area of expertise, that's for sure. Okay, let's talk about the next thing. So we're going to totally switch gears. This is one of those far-right turns.
Yeah.
It's so easy. And by the way, I do this disclaimer ahead of time. I spent time in Hollywood. It was my temporary insanity period. I'm a recovered actress in my left brain, my right mind, but still believe in the power of film. My husband and I have a film company. He was with Walt Disney Studios for a while. And I have to say, seeing from the inside and then seeing so many of the silly things that are said, it is very easy to pick on Hollywood. I also then want to make sure that when somebody says something that actually makes a lot of sense, we give them a tip of the hat. We give them a shout out. One of the things when I was there was most celebrities had bought into what our culture tells them, which is every person is waiting with bated breath to hear what wisdom they have on every single topic, particularly politics. And in our more strident period that we're in, people are out there just banging people over the head. I think that's why Academy Awards have gone down. People are tired of being preached at. Now, the person we're going to talk about, it's kind of surprising. I mean, Jennifer Lawrence, known from Hunger Games and many other things, very talented actress. I really think she's talented. But I started not wanting to watch her too much because I just had seen her lecturing me on how stupid I was for being a constitutionalist a week before. But she's grown up a bit on this. I don't think her political views have changed, but she was recently in an interview talking about how she's just not going to share her opinion anymore. Number one light bulb moment, she said, it's shown election after election that people don't really care what celebrities think about politics. And then she said, so why am I going to put my opinion out there and just keep fanning the flame of division? I thought that was great.
Yep.
And I really think we need to take moments when somebody does that, because hopefully she'll lead others to say, you know what, we need just entertainment to be entertainment.
Well, funny story, Billy Bob Thornton, who is a Landman is about to start again. It's the best soap opera on television. It's so violent and so much cursing and so good. Okay, I'm just saying. But he was on with Joe Rogan. He was just on with Joe Rogan, and he said the exact same thing. He's like, first of all, unless you are deeply invested in a topic, does anybody really want to hear what you have to say? No, they don't. They don't want to hear what you have to say. And he said, he said he was radically moderate and that he doesn't talk about politics because no one cares. And he's right. But let's talk about Sydney Sweeney for a minute.
We have to.
Girl, y'all, this is what being hot and blonde and having a great set of boobs does for you.
No one asked me to do that jeans commercial, I got to tell you.
Yeah, well,
she does have good jeans.
I mean, she does have really good jeans, but she was just interviewed in GQ magazine. And this morning, I went and watched, because there's been a snippet that has made the rounds of this reporter trying to get Sydney Sweeney to say something political.
Oh, yes.
And Sydney Sweeney handled it beautifully.
Yes, she did.
I went and watched a longer chunk of the interview. I probably would have gotten up and walked out. It was, I want you to go watch it.
I will.
Because when you watch the longer, you're like, holy cow, this reporter had an agenda. She knew what she wanted Sydney Sweeney to do, and she couldn't get her to do it.
Well, and that's why by the end, the clip everyone sees, she's like, you know, it's like she's come around it for the 14th time, trying to get her to say, and here was the basic underlying message. What this GQ reporter basically said in this underlying message was, you know, if you don't talk about the fact that that jeans ad could mean that you are a white supremacist who think that you're genetically superior, then people might infer this. To which point, Sydney Sweeney brilliantly at a young age just said, if I have something I want to say, people will hear it. Do you know what I found really ironic? The GQ reporter, most of her social media platforms are private. She doesn't feel the need to tell the world what she's thinking. But the reality is that's the way it should be. And having been in Hollywood, part of this underground conservative organization, it was the same catch-22. If you were sitting in a room or a set of a film and you just didn't join in on all of the more leftist speaking topics, suddenly there'd be a moment where everybody'd go, oh, you're not saying anything. You must be conservative. You know, enough of that. Good on these young women.
Yeah.
I mean, Jennifer Lawrence is a little bit older, more seasoned. Billy Bob Thornton. The other thing I think is important about this, we need places in our culture and our society where we can just come together and get politics the heck out of Dodge. Movies, sports, things like that. Just let that be a place where we unite and we're not being preached at all the time. Way to go.
Way to go. We love it. Should we leave this to, I got to tell you, no, we have to talk about Nike's new campaign. Okay, we must.
Can't help ourselves.
Talk about this. Okay, first of all, it's kind of the same thing though, what we're talking about. Okay, so we're talking about actors and actresses giving their opinion. Nike has, in my view, made a series of unforced errors.
Yes.
Starting with the hiring of quarterback Colin Kaepernick and doing this insane during the Black Lives Matter campaign. And they have chosen to go all in on this sort of woke messaging. And you know what? That's their right. They're a private company. They can do whatever they want.
Yep.
But it has really, really hurt them. And I read the article today, and in the article it said, this is the line that it said that made me laugh, during a period of slumping sales. Okay, so during a period of slumping sales, they decide that they are going to hire a non-binary furry to be their new spokesperson. Now, you guys, I do what you want to do. If you want to pretend you're a fox, but don't expect me to agree with you. And don't expect me to affirm what you're doing because it's really silly and it's kind of lunacy. But who is this commercial for? Who is the target market? My job is advertising. My job is to sell my listeners things. I better know who my demographic is. I better know a couple of things, like, do they have money? You got to know who's the demographic for this. This is going to be the thing that brings their sales up. It's not saying that you cannot honor and respect all different people, but when you're talking about advertising, you want to have a mass media appeal campaign. And anytime you inject politics from either side into the conversation, you've alienated half your buying base.
Absolutely. And know your brand, by the way. It's why Budweiser made the silliest move when they pushed, Dylan in a breakfast at Tiffany's, sort of outfit. That's not their brand. Their brand is beer drinkers that, just it's Americana sort of thing. That's fine. Have a product for that. Nike, it's supposed to be about be your best, be athletic, be strong.
Just do it.
Just do it. And the whole fact that they're doing this, they actually are talking about how now they are calling gamers right on, but I'm a mom. I tried to make sure our kids were not doing gaming so much, although this self-proclaimed non-binary furry has made $800,000 in winnings, so I didn't know there was much money in it. But there's not a big audience, and they're even marketing this campaign as, and I quote, heroes of a modern arena. I'm sorry, I'm just seeing Hunger Games again. It's kind of a Jennifer Lawrence period, a modern arena. But that's the interesting thing about it. You know what? I have a feeling it's going to be another go woke, go broke.
We'll see what happens.
And I think that will be one of the few times we say the word furry in this show.
Yes,
but that is the self-proclaimed non-binary furry, this new spokesperson they have for Nike. So, okay, so that's the good, the bad, the weird, and the whatever in our culture.
Now, click the clicky.
Click the clicky.
We've got stuff.
We've got stuff. Yes, we do.
Ladies, let me tell you something. One of the greatest things in my life is hormone replacement therapy. And I am not exaggerating and I am not kidding. I'm 56 years old. I think I've been on it now for maybe 6 or 7 years. My next guest will know, because when I said we're going to talk about hormone replacement therapy, I said we have to bring on my friend Rachel Anders from ReGen Revolution. She's the CEO, because she knows everything. And she's joining us now to talk about that. Rachel, good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you too. I don't know if I know everything. I just learned a lot from your last segment.
Well, stuff you didn't know you wanted to know until now. That's the problem.
From what I've heard, that when it comes,
want to know,
exactly. But what I've heard from Mandy is when it comes to HRT, hormone replacement therapy, you are the go-to person. So we're glad you're here.
Thank you for having me on.
So, Rachel, why don't we do kind of an overview? People may hear HRT or they may hear hormone replacement therapy. What does that actually mean?
Hormone replacement therapy is just pretty much what it sounds like. It's a way, and there are many ways, but it's a way of getting more hormones into your body that you might not have enough of. And I know for me, it's been around for decades. I mean, my grandma used to wear an estrogen patch on her backside, Hormone replacement therapy has evolved a ton over the last 50 years. And we know now, just the blood testing is better and the science is better. It's gotten a lot farther, and we understand how hormones work in the body and what they do a lot more, with every day. But I would say historically, hormone replacement therapy was women need estrogen, because when we get to a certain age, we don't have any more estrogen, and then we start to act rude. And it's
that's my
sleep.
excuse.
Yeah, it's hard to sleep. You might be short-tempered, and you might not be able to remember what day it is if you don't get some estrogen in there. And so that's kind of what the deal was just, let's just get testosterone in men, because their hair's falling out and their libido is low. And so we want testosterone for men and estrogen for women. And as we're all human, men have estrogen also. They just have less of it than women. And women have testosterone also. We just have less of it than men. So both things are actually really important. But talking about women is what we're doing today. So the importance of having testosterone is also really high for women. And it's not just about feeling strong or your hair falling out. Testosterone is a really protective hormone for your brain, for your cardiovascular system, for your skin. And so it's just been kind of discounted for women because we just need estrogen. And the sources of where they've been getting that estrogen over the past years have been synthetic sources or animal sources, like from horse urine and things like that. And then if you overdose women with too much estrogen, then you see a lot. Now we've seen an uptick in hormone-related cancers, right? That because we have too much estrogen, and then it's a foreign type of estrogen in the body that it can't necessarily metabolize. So that leads me to my next thing, which is bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, which is really what you want. Hormones from plants can be made that are bioidentical to the ones we make naturally as humans. They can be made from things like yams and different types of plants that have these estrogens.
Good for Thanksgiving, extra helping of the sweet potatoes.
Okay, I've been on these hormones for like 7 or 8 years, 6 or 7 years now. Had no clue to ask. Like I never even once asked, where do they come from?
Plants. Well, the ones you get in our office come from plants. The ones you get from, that pharmaceutical companies have been making for years are made from synthetic sources largely. And so you just have to understand where you're getting them, because we now have decades of study that show that some things are better for you than other things. That goes for, any industry, I suppose. But bioidentical hormones is what you want. And if you can get them from a plant source, even better instead of an animal source. But testosterone for women helps you think straight. It helps you sleep better. It helps your skin look better. It's good for your cardiovascular health. It helps fight cognitive decline. Testosterone is, and when I got my testosterone tested and I was 40, my testosterone was 9.
Wow.
Well, so what,
9.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about is it seems like there's much better understanding of what that ideal range for women is, because it's much different than the ideal range for men. So that seems, even in the years that I've been doing it, I feel like that's gotten a little bit clearer.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I think, and this is what's frustrating, especially for, anybody who's like, God, I'm 50 something. I just don't feel like myself. Maybe my hormones are low, and they go to their PCP and they get a blood test, and the doctor looks at it. He's like, well, no, everything's normal. And you're like, everything is not normal. Like, I'm ready to murder everyone. And, I'm impatient. I can't sleep, and I don't have a sex drive. It's not normal. And they're like, well, I don't know, just let's try something else. But there's a difference between normal and optimal, right? So the way that they establish ranges, and this actually goes for any blood test, the way they establish the ranges is by getting, tens of thousands of blood samples, testing them, and then saying, okay, there's a bell curve here. Here's what's normal. Well, where are you going to get tens of thousands of blood samples? Hospitals. Who's in the hospital? People who are old or sick.
Yeah.
But that's not normal. Why do we
it's not optimal, that's for sure.
Right. So what we want to do instead is take blood samples of people who are young and vibrant and healthy, and that's what's optimal. So the ranges that we tend to try to put patients into, and this is done with successive blood tests, to make sure that they're optimized. It's not just about how the patient feels, but also what their blood work looks like. Because sometimes men, especially, they want to just be full of testosterone because it makes them feel like strong, and, athletes especially, like it makes them feel, more able, and they recover faster. But you can actually have too much testosterone, and that can cause other kinds of damage in the body. So it's important to keep monitoring this with blood work. But a woman's testosterone, when she's sitting about 120 to 150, that's like a normal young woman in her 30s.
That's great.
And if you say the same for men, it's like way higher than what your doctor would consider normal.
Yeah, Rachel, I want to ask a question, because I was one of those people that was scared off because there was a 2002 test study that came out that said, oh, it can increase, breast cancer and all these other terrible things and strokes, et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't do the research. So I was one of those people that missed an opportunity, and osteoporosis runs in my family. And so this would have been great. There was just a change by the FDA and HHS to take that black box label off of these. First of all, I think that's a great thing. And that's one of the reasons why we're so happy to have you here. What changed, and how did that get missed for 20 some years that they weren't even looking at the right data?
Well, what data are we talking about?
Well, whatever they were looking at, there was from what I understand, in 2002, there was a study claiming increased risk of breast cancer and heart issues. But they said that was actually based on what you're talking about, synthetic versus natural, the doses, et cetera. And I mean, let me ask you this way. Are you glad to hear that they've taken those black box labels off? Because honestly, it's something that I am actually just now starting the HRT process, although I need to see you. But I hope that makes a difference. What are your thoughts about them finally catching up?
I think that, in a way, it's good and bad, right? There's a good component to that because people won't be so scared of hormone replacement therapy. The bad part of it is that synthetic hormones are not good for you. And so by when my grandma was getting her estrogen patches, those types of really elevated estrogen that was synthetic estrogen, caused a lot of female cancers, that were estrogen driven cancers. And so, the dosing has gotten better. However, the source, I have mixed feelings about that. People should be aware that it makes a difference whether you're getting synthetic hormones or bioidentical hormones.
Absolutely. Now that's a big key.
Okay, Rachel, let's get down to the nitty gritty because somebody's watching this and they're like, I wonder if I should have my hormones checked. You kind of mentioned some of this stuff earlier, but let's give a little ticking list of what things would make you think that person should have their hormones checked. What are the main symptoms? They can start, let's be real. Some women enter perimenopause in their mid-30s. So it can happen a lot earlier than you think it's going to be. And perimenopause is not something you get through quickly. It can be a many, many year process. So
I read the other day it can take 7 to 11 years.
Oh, fun for everyone in that household, especially the woman.
So what are some of the main symptoms that would bring somebody to ReGen Revolution to do hormone replacement testing?
Well, first of all, I think if you're questioning, I wonder if I'm in perimenopause. You are. If you're questioning, I wonder if my hormones are low. They are. Listen to your intuition. Just go get a blood test. The reality of it is that we have now a very estrogen dominant environment. And so with all the processed food, with all the pollutants that are in the air, we're seeing estrogen dominance in all people in America. Okay. And you're seeing it little boys have breast tissue now. That didn't used to be a thing when I was a kid, And so there is an estrogen dominance problem in our diet and culture. So everyone should get their hormones checked, but if you feel like you're not sleeping well, the brain fog, oh God, night sweats, irrational sort of irritability and maybe anger.
Rachel's actually reading from my initial testing right now. I checked all of this. The one that really got me that I wasn't expecting, all of a sudden, both my hands and my feet turned into icicles. I could not get my hands and feet warm. And then as soon as I get the hormone pellets, guess what? That went away. Crazy.
Yeah, your internal thermostat just stops working. You wake up with night sweats, hot flashes. That's a pretty, obvious one about perimenopause. But even for younger people, I think people in their 30s and 40s, they come in young women, their hair's falling out. Yeah. Young men, how many young men do you see that are bald now? That wasn't a thing when I was a kid or when I was that age, So if you think something's not right, or you're like, God, I'm only 35 and my hair's falling out. Get your hormones checked. Sooner the better, honestly, because the sooner you can start addressing a problem, the easier it is to correct.
Can you very quickly explain what the actual pellet is? Because when I tell people I'm on hormone replacement and I use the pellets, and then I try to explain to them that they put them into the fatty part of my butt, they look at me really weird. So what exactly are we doing, just so they understand? And for the record, it does not hurt.
It's not a tracker. I'm on Hunger Games right now.
No.
I don't know what to say.
As far as I know, I don't know. Rachel does always seem to know where I am.
Well, I always want to know where you're at, Mandy.
Yeah, there you go.
There are a couple different ways you can get bioidentical hormones. There are some injections. I think troches under the tongue is a really common one. Or you can do something like pellets. If you're doing injections or doing troches or doing creams, your hormone level is going to spike up and then it's going to plummet. And then you do it again. It spikes up and it's going to plummet. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Your ideal level is like in the middle. And so once on the way up, you're going to feel good. And once on the way down, you're going to feel good. But all the rest of the time, you're either too high or too low. The nice thing about the pellets is we cut a little tiny incision. It's like maybe 1/4 of an inch. You would put something called a trocar in there. That's like I usually kind of call it like a clicky pen. And then you load the pellets in there and you go click. And then it deposits the pellets into the fat in your butt cheek. And then they put steri strips on there that you keep on for a couple days. And then the wound closes, but your body starts to form capillaries around the pellets. And so after about 5 to 7 days, you're starting to get that pellet dissolved and it goes directly into your bloodstream. So it just goes up and stays level until the pellet dissolves. So for women, it's like 3 to 4 months. For men, it's like 6 to 7 months because we put more pellets in there. But you get like just a nice, even, steady dosing, which a lot of people like. So sometimes I'll put it in the butt. Most often we put it in the butt cheek. Sometimes if people are really athletic, we might put it in their flank, because if you're doing a lot of repeated glute firing exercises like running, you have to take a rest from that until the capillaries form and the wound closes.
And so that you have to do that every 3 to 4 months, which, I mean, it sounds like an amazing thing because you don't have to remember everything and it's so natural. Right. And is that both progesterone and estrogen? Because that's the one other thing I hear too, is what is that balance?
Yeah, that's a good question. So women who are still menstruating, we don't give them estrogen usually. Estradiol is what it is. It's mostly just testosterone that most women need. If you are postmenopausal, then you'll get estrogen, estradiol, and testosterone. The pellets are tiny. They're like smaller than a grain of rice. They're small. And so and then if we're giving somebody estradiol, we'll also recommend a progesterone for them, because otherwise you'll start menstruating again and nobody wants that.
No.
That's the happy part of moving into this other phase of life. Well, this is great. And I'm so glad to hear about this, because I was one of those people that just ruled it all out. Obviously, the most important thing is what you're talking about, Rachel, the bioidentical, which I think is part of the reason why there was the bad report before. And now this is the key. Question, where can people find out more and reach out to you, because you are the expert on this?
You can call the office, 303-292-9992, or you can go to the website, regenrev.com, or fill out a form fill. Somebody will call you, or call the office and somebody will get you scheduled.
And you may see me there.
Okay.
I mean, they're quite a bit, so we'll have Rachel on at another time to talk about all the other stuff that I've done at ReGen Revolution. They're my anti-aging secret. They're my anti-aging secret.
And I think I'm going to be there too. So it's so good to talk to you, Rachel. Really appreciate it.
Good to talk to you too.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
I just want to I will testify about hormone replacement therapy, because it makes you feel like yourself.
Yeah.
And that's something like, the old boiling frog. You put a frog in a pot of water, and then you turn the fire on. He doesn't realize he's being boiled. That's what your hormones falling off feels like. It happens so slowly over time that you don't realize how bad you feel. And then, like in my case, the first time I got pellets, 5 days later, I'm like, oh, I feel amazing. It was just, cannot recommend it highly enough. Really, truly. And I had that experience where I went to my primary care doctor and they said, oh, you know what? Your levels are in the normal range. The normal range is like 200. You know what I mean?
That's a great point.
So get it done at a place that does this.
Well, what I do appreciate, RFK Jr., when they announced that they were taking the black box label off, they said it was based on bad science and bureaucracy. We're getting to good science here, because it does make sense. And the last thing I'll say about this before we get to the good news is the reason why I investigated it was because I wasn't sleeping through the night. I had that brain fog, and I just thought, oh my gosh, is this the state I'm going to be in now for the rest of my life? And now I'm sharp as a tack and sleeping through the night.
Well, I will tell you, I believe, and I have had this theory for years, I believe that so many people divorce in their 50s because of menopause. Like, I genuinely believe that menopause makes women kind of crazy. And men are like, what are you doing? You're not the person.
You? Yeah.
And women are like, sorry, I have 0 blanks to give anymore. And I'm not going to hold back. But I think that that's part of it. And I think hormone replacement can save a lot of marriages.
One of the few shows where we'll talk about all of these things and furries all in the same show. Okay, I think it's time to wind it up.
Woo-hoo.
We've got good news. It is this season. We're wearing our fall colors again and all of that. As we know, we're just a few weeks out now from Thanksgiving, actually only a couple. And we have good news for us, which is that we're not going to be doing a show
on the week of Thanksgiving.
Yes, we're going to take that off. And we hope that you enjoy time with your family too. But because of that, we want to make sure we talk about Thanksgiving. And here, I just want to kick it off with this. This is good news, but I'm going to start with my pet peeve. I'm one of those people that...
I'm about to complain about something, but it's good news. Trust me. Stick around. Go ahead.
No, it's like when you go from Halloween and the next day there's Christmas decorations up, I'm like, just slow it down a little bit, because to me, Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays. Not because it's got all of the shininess and all of that, but because it is a time where you can take a pause. I think it is the best opportunity to make sure that you got a moment where you really remember about gratitude. And I always think it sets the stage before you get into the full-blown holiday season, because it's easy for it to become about pushing in the mall and getting presents and all this other kind of stuff. But when you pause to remember Thanksgiving, have that kind of quiet moment before the next season. That's my pet peeve, but that's why I want to talk about Thanksgiving, because I think it's an amazing holiday. Go ahead.
I already have my lights up.
I know. Hey, it's okay. See, we can still be friends. We're going to model.
I already have. And honestly, if it was not for my husband, like, I would have already started putting up Christmas decorations.
And you know what? You do you, boo. It's fine.
I love my Christmas decorations. These are all accumulated, and it brings me such joy.
Aww.
Like, I get my trees out, and then I get my ornaments, and I hold them, and I look at them, and I remember where I got them. And it makes me mad that Christmas is only like supposed to be a month, okay? I like the twinkling lights everywhere. I love all of it. But I also love Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Because Thanksgiving truly is the best holiday when you get right down to it. Because you get a massive feast, you get football, you possibly get a nap. There's no presents to buy. There's no religion to observe. Like, no offense to Easter and Christmas, but you got the whole rigmarole. With Thanksgiving, it is just a chance to spend time with family, possibly hurt yourself playing football, whatever. and it's the most, I think, one of the most laid back holidays.
Yeah. And okay, so, I will not steal from your joy. You go ahead and celebrate Thanksgiving within your Christmas decorations, which is fine. The point is just make sure you don't skip over it. And I love looking at this because to me, it has a different kind of a spiritual element, which is just practicing gratitude. Yeah. It is one of the best things, but you're right. We do that thing where we go around the table and we talk about what we're thankful for. We have the prayer. We talk about all the blessings that God has given us over the year, what we're looking for going forward. And by the way, we're talking a lot about health. So yeah, get your HRT, hormone replacement therapy, and then write a thankful list or a gratitude list, because by the way, it shows that when you practice the art of being thankful, it reduces depression, lowers your blood pressure, releases all those fun serotonins and dopamines. And it's a great exercise, I think, leading up to Thanksgiving, these next couple of weeks, just kind of like there's Advent leading up to Christmas, which is a great opportunity to pause and remember the reason for the season. There was an article that talked about write down 3 good things every day leading up to Thanksgiving. And by the way, if it becomes a habit and you keep doing it afterwards, it's great. But it's amazing how much that changes our outlook on everything. So
perspective is all you can control, right?
Yes.
I mean, isn't it? Like, to a certain extent. And when you assume an attitude of gratitude, which I realize that that's a cheesy sign in Michael's. I get it in Hobby Lobby. I understand it. But it's true. When you decide that you are going to look at the world through a lens of gratitude, and sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes you are like, you know what? Can't pay the mortgage this month. Don't know how we're doing this. But if you can muster it in your soul to find gratitude, you will have a different perspective in life, and your perspective will change. And I promise you, everything about it, your energy. Yes. I'm a big believer, and I don't know how to explain it. I do believe in physics, and I believe that whatever energy you put out is the energy you get back, right? And I've seen that proven in my own life so many times. So if you're putting out an energy that says, I am so grateful for this experience, for knowing you, for being in this room with the people that I love, you are going to send that energy out in the world, and that's the kind of energy that you're going to get back.
Yeah.
So definitely for Thanksgiving, make that happen.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because a lot of times we can lose that perspective and only see the problems. Our pastor said something really interesting at church one time, and he said, if you can't figure out what to be thankful for, look at it this way. Imagine that anything you didn't thank God for could be taken away at any point in time. You start going, thank you for the air. Thank you for the gravity. Thank you for my health. Thank you for the fact that I'm upright and I'm still here. Thank you for purpose. Thank you for living in a country, by the way, where even though we've got problems, we still are the freest nation. And I think the most exceptional nation in history, where more people have prospered because the individual is respected, intrinsic value, government just is there to protect us. You could go on and think of all the things to be thankful for. Thankful for the trees outside, the snow, not the snow, whichever one it is at the time. So we encourage you that. I think instead of this special show, instead of it being about an act of kindness, random act of kindness, I just want to encourage everyone. Start a gratitude journal. And when I started this a few years ago, it actually turned into a prayer journal. And I realize every day how much I have to be grateful for, starting with God, this country, family, and a good friend.
I will tell you my gratitude journal, because I too have gone down that route, once included 3 entries in a row that said, I did not murder anyone today. I did not murder anyone today. I did not murder anyone today. And then I got my hormone replacement. There you go.
And now, thank you for science and for medicine. Well, there we go. We wish you all a wonderful Thanksgiving. Obviously, you'll be watching this beforehand or maybe that week. And we do hope that it is a season where you can really feel the blessings that you have, the fact that we live in a great country, and enjoy that season.
Hey, thanks everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.